the second part of verse 3, and are acquainted with all my ways. Now this one's a little bit easier to understand. We kind of understand this one. Right? We have friends and we have acquaintances, people that we know, people that we see them versus a stranger, we know them. We can say, hi, how are you? We may not be able to get very far in the conversation, but at least we can say, hi. Because there's this connection that we have acquaintances. But we know in our lives there are acquaintances that we'd much rather not have. Some of them. This acquaintance, the way that this is used, are acquainted with all my works. The way this word acquaintance is used is to know someone. But not only to know someone, but to know someone with a purpose in order to minister to that person, to help that person, and to provide for that person. And so God is acquainted with all of our ways. He is that acquaintance, He is that friend who is our friend in order to minister to us and to help us and to provide for us. How much we should cherish those friends, those acquaintances that help us out when we need it, that minister to us, that provide for us. And so much more is our Heavenly Father, who is acquainted with all of us, every single one of our ways, and provides and ministers. He's our acquaintance in order to help us, in order to minister to us. In verse 6 we see, such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high. I cannot attain it. David said, I don't get it, God. It's way over my head. I can't grasp it. What you think about me, how you think about what I think, is so above me, I don't understand. God is in a completely different dimension than us. How we think is completely different than how we think, obviously. We see this from the scripture. That God works in a completely different dimension than us. We can't fathom it. There's no way we can understand it. David knows that. I can't begin to understand how well God knows what I think. The second section here. David is saying God knows where I am. He's not saying I want to get away from God's Spirit, but rather in all of those places, God is there. He uses these extreme illustrations here. Where can I go from your Spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning, fly away, and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall be. David said, there's no place in the universe that God is not. He's always there. And this is both a scary and inspiring. Because if we know that there are things that we've put in between us and God, we know that He knows about it. We know we can't run away from that. There's no way we can run away from God and run to another place. We have to get that right with God. There's no way. There's no other way. We have to get it right with God because God is everywhere. We can't run from Him. And that's a scary thing. But it's also a comforting and inspiring thing. Jonah knew this. Right? Trapped in a big fish. He knew it. Or he realized it after a little while. Noah knew this. Trapped in a giant ark with all these stinky animals. Joseph knew this. Being trapped in jail for something that he knew he didn't do. And even the Apostle John knew this. He was exiled from everyone he knew to the island of Patmos. But there is nowhere where God is not. He's always there with all of us. I can remember when I was a kid, and I could fall asleep because I knew that my parents were right in the next room. I knew that no matter what nightmares I had or whatever might happen, I knew that I was safe. I could fall asleep because I knew that mom and dad were just right in the next room right over. I knew that no matter what, I could go running in there and I said, I'm scared. The illustration of God is so much deeper than that. God is not just in the next room, but God is in the room with us. We know that He will keep us safe. He will protect us. He's always there. We all remember the 33 Chilean miners that were trapped in the mine over the summer and part of the fall. Trapped under 700,000 tons of rock. I'm sure it was incredibly easy for them to be tempted to think that no one cared about them, that all was completely lost, they were going to die down there, that God wasn't there, that no one cared about them, no one even knew that they were there until the media came out. You feel that way. But God was there. There was an interview with a relative of one of the trapped miners. And that man was one of the trapped Chilean miners was a devout Christian who kept sparking hope and faith in his fellow miners. And one man that was devout atheist felt God's presence there. God was there. And he turned from his atheism, turned to belief in God because he could feel that God was there. God was there with them. Under 700,000 tons of rock, God is there. There's nowhere that God is not. Some of us may not be trapped physically, like the miners, a lot of people. Some of us may feel like we're trapped in other things. Addictions, despair, depression, anxiety, fear, trapped by all these different things. And we don't feel that God can possibly break through those barriers and those walls to break into where we are. We don't feel like God can really understand where we are. Or that God isn't there. That God's kind of turned his back on us. But remember, God is there. God is there. God will always be there. David never lost sight of this fact. In fact, he said in verse 11, "If I say, surely the darkness shall fall on me, even the night shall be light about me." There are no bad things that happen to us. Let's sink in. There are no bad things that happen to us. God uses all of them to show us his presence, to show us that he's there. Joseph, I already spoke about him when he was put over, just second in command under Pharaoh in Egypt. He's talking with his brothers after all is said and done. And he says to them, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done." And he goes on to say what that is, the saving of many lives. And look that up, Genesis 50:20. You intended to harm me. Everything else around us may intend to harm us, but God uses everything for a purpose, to show us his presence, that he's there. The last section that David kind of talks about here is God knows what I think, God knows where I am, and God knows who I am. Psalm 139, verses 13 through 18 are some of the most deep, passionate, intimate words of the Bible to us. We know that he knows us completely through and through. We see here in verse 14, "I will praise you for I am fearfully and wonderfully made." We've read that. We've heard that so many times. What does it mean? What does that mean? I am fearfully and wonderfully made. The word fearfully here is exactly what in English, full of fear, fearfully, reverently. That God used this reverent, fearfully powerful act of his creation in making each and every one. Never to be taken for granted. Such a fearfully powerful act of his power, his grace and his love and his creativity in each of us. And we see that in each of us.